Question 11. Which of the following statements best represents a nationalistic interpretation of the collapse of the Ottoman and Russian empires during and immediately after the First World War? A. Military weakness and political instability were the primary reasons for the collapse of these empires. B. The growing demands of various ethnic groups within these multi-ethnic empires were the primary reasons for the collapse. C. The slow pace of industrialization in these empires left them unable to compete militarily or politically with more developed countries. D. Religious differences between the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire led to their final collapse. Since 1930, the Brazilian government has been undertaking a social policy whose main goal is to protect the working classes through the betterment of their working conditions, elevating their standard of life and extending the social security system. Indeed, in 1937's Constitution proclaims that work is a social duty and establishes that it is the government's responsibility to guarantee the fulfillment of this duty by securing favorable conditions for workers and protecting them. In this way, the Constitution guarantees the right of organization, requires the current unions as the representatives of the workers, and authorizes the signing of collective bargaining agreements. Salaries are protected and must provide a minimum standard of life. The workday is 8 hours long, and there is one mandatory day of rest. Paid vacations are mandatory. Workers are protected against unjustified dismissal. Minors under 14 years old are not allowed to work, and women and men under 18 cannot work in unhealthy sites. The Constitution establishes that the state must provide medical assistance for workers and must protect maternity and create insurance against old age and disability. The Constitution also compels professional associations to assist its members. In order to enforce these principles, the Constitution anticipates the creation of a work tribunal, whose goals will be to arbitrate in all work-related litigation. This document, provided by the Brazilian government of Getúlio Vargas circa 1940, Vargas had come to power in 1930 following a military coup. Question number 12. Which of the following best explains the historical significance of views such as those expressed in the passage? A. They show that many political leaders used the economic challenges of the Great Depression to justify implementing repressive policies. B. They show that many states responded to the Great Depression by using race-based ideologies to mobilize economic resources. C. They show that, in response to the disruptions of the Great Depression, many political leaders saw it as their duty to take an active role in guiding economic life. D. They show that, in response to the disruptions of the Great Depression, some states reaffirmed their commitment to pursuing liberal economic policies. Question 13. The Brazilian government's pride in listing the extensive workers' rights guarantees under this 1937 Constitution is significant because it shows that A. Governments across the political spectrum sought to support the military in obtaining political power. B. Governments across the political spectrum were influenced by socialist economic and social policies. C. Governments across the political spectrum used nationalism to mobilize their populations for war. Or D. Governments across the political spectrum promoted state-led industrialization to foster economic growth. Question 14. Which of the following best explains the potentially significant limitations of using the document for understanding the reforms based on the passage in Brazil? A. The document likely exaggerates the extent to which the reforms benefited Brazil's middle and upper classes. B. The document likely exaggerates the importance of the work tribunal in reshaping economic development in Brazil. C. The document likely ignores the deep tension that existed between workers and union leaders. Or D. The document likely ignores some economic problems that might have occurred because of the reforms. Question 15. Which of the following was a major long-term effect of the global economic depression in the 1930s? A. Governments began to take a more active role in their economies. B. Global warming was accelerated by increased burning of fossil fuels. C. Land-based empires such as the Ottoman Empire became stronger. Or D. Individuals such as Gandhi developed the practice of non-violence. Number 16. Which of the following was a major similarity between the goals of the leaders of the Chinese Communist Revolution, such as Mao Zedong, and the goals of leaders of the Mexican Revolution, such as Emilio Zapata in the early 20th century? A. Advocacy for global workers' revolution. B. Active encouragement for integration into the global economy. C. Concern primarily for improving conditions for urban factory workers. Or D. The support of redistribution of land to poor peasants. Number 17. We did not have a tractor industry. We have one now. We did not have an automobile industry. We have one. We now have one. Now we have one. Pardon me. In the output of electrical power, we are last on the list. Now we rank among the first. In the output of oil products and coal, we were not last on the list. Now we rank among the first. And as a result of all of our country has been converted from an agrarian into an industrial economy. Joseph Stalin, Soviet Union, 1933. The economic development Stalin describes above was achieved primarily through which of the following? A. Government control of the national economy. B. Foreign investments from Western Europe. C. Extensive trade with the United States. Or D. The creation of private companies by Russian entrepreneurs. Without a revolutionary theory, there could be no revolutionary movement. The role of vanguard fighter can be fulfilled only by a party that is guided by the most advanced theory. We have said that there could not have been social democratic consciousness among the workers. It could only be brought to them from without. The history of all countries shows that the working class, exclusively by its own effort, is able to develop only trade union consciousness, i.e., the conviction that it is necessary to combine into unions. Find the employers and strive to compel the government to pass necessary legislation. The theory of socialism, however, grew out of the philosophic, historical, and economic theories elaborated by educated representatives for the proprietary classes, the intellectuals. Our worst sin with regards to the organization is that by amateurishness, we have lowered the prestige of revolutionaries in Russia. Vladimir Lenin, Russian exile in Switzerland, From What Is to Be Done, 1902. Question 18. Which of the following best describes a similarity between the Russian revolutions of 1917 and the Chinese Revolution of 1911? A. Both were ignited in response to invasions by foreign powers. B. Both gained support of government reformers holding high bureaucratic positions. C. Both were led by members of the working class who had risen through the ranks of labor unions. Or D. Both were able to gain support because of the ineffectiveness and corruption of the existing monarchies. Question 19. I belong to these scientists who consider that the drying up of the Aral Sea is more advantageous than preserving it. First, in its zone, good fertile land will be obtained. Cultivation of cotton alone will pay for the existing Aral Sea, with all of its fisheries, shipping, and other industries. Second, the disappearance of the sea is not affecting the region's landscapes. A. Babayev, president of the Soviet Turkmenistan's Academy of Sciences in the late 1950s. Which of the following best describes the cause of the developments described in the passage? A. Soviet efforts to modernize their economy through government control. B. Soviet reaction to the economic crisis of the Great Depression. C. Protests against the environmental effects of economic development. Or D. Scientific breakthroughs in transportation and communication. In the views of the outbreak between Great Britain and Turkey, which occurred because of the ill-advised, unprovoked, and deliberate action of the Ottoman government, His Majesty's government has made a public announcement regarding the holy places of Arabia, the holy shrines of Mesopotamia, and the port of Jeddah, which is as follows. His Majesty's most loyal Muslim subjects must understand that His Majesty's government is not fighting the war because of religion. The British Navy and its military forces will not attack the holy places of Arabia or Jeddah unless the Turks interfere with the pilgrimages from India to the holy places and shrines in question. In that case, British military forces will intervene to keep the pilgrimage routes open. As a request of His Majesty's government, the government of France and Russia have been given similar assurances. It is worth noting that Jeddah is a city located on the western coast of Arabia along the Red Sea. This comes from a pamphlet published by the British Indian War Department in 1915. It was translated and distributed in cities and towns in India. Question 20. The treaties that settled the conflict refer to the passage most directly changed the geopolitical structure of the Middle East in which of the following ways? A. Most states were formerly under European colonial rule became independent. B. The State of Israel was created, which led to numerous wars. C. Allied forces received territorial mandates from the League of Nations. D. Religious fundamentalism increased, which led to attacks on Western states.